Hello, welcome to the next interview from the Cloud Report. I'm Friederike, Editor-in-Chief, and today I have the pleasure to talk with Andreas Weiss from Echo. Please introduce yourself and tell us what is Echo doing.
Okay, so first of all, let's start with Echo. Echo is the Association of the Internet Industry. We are already acting since more than 25 years, taking care about internet governance, and we are also dealing mostly with digital infrastructure. So we have 1,100 members out of 70 countries, and mainly ISPs, data center provider, cloud provider, but also everyone else who is working into the digital stack of services. And in this sense, we clearly address everything which is related to the internet in terms of how to use the internet for digital business models, for example. And this is my key profession at Echo, to provide an understanding how to make use of all these digital service components like AI, like blockchain, like industrial IoT, and so on and so forth. And we are really seeing that the internet is going more and more into the critical service of the overall economy. And later since COVID, we understood what this means. So in this sense, we also stepped into Gaia-X, for example, I think one of our topics today.
And who are you?
So you want to have some background about myself, or
just want to share with us?
Okay, I'm located in the Rhine area between Düsseldorf and Cologne, which is sometimes difficult in terms of the choice of beer and which part to speak. And then I'm acting in the IT sector since more than 35 years already. It's always challenging. I think the most important thing is it's an ongoing learning exercise. So what you learned today is in 2 years already fully disconnected from what's going on. So you really need to understand the continuous change in the IT sector, and even more the impact on the society at all. And I think this is a level of responsibility we have to take care. And there are so much interesting topics, but of course you need to scope on some of these items. So, but I really like the job. So this is, and we have a nice team, and talking with, and what is really also important, whatever we do is with the scope on international usability. So ECHO is an international association, and what we're doing, for example, with Gaia-X is at least in the European area, and this also implies that we need to try to understand other perspectives, that we need to understand others' goals and bring this all together. So at the end of the day, it's an ongoing multi-stakeholder approach here.
You mentioned Gaia-X several times now, and Gaia-X is everywhere in the media, but maybe explain shortly, what is Gaia-X? Really, there are several words around.
Can you explain me, what do you understand around Gaia-X?
I understand Gaia-X as an initiative to define and make sure about the standards for cloud computing and cloud infrastructure, and also an initiative for collaboration within these topics to provide secure, sustainable, and trustworthy technique and experts, and to offer real, not opposite, but advantage for cloud computing in Europe.
Okay. Well, quite good, because at least I could remark 20 of these typical Gaia-X buzzwords.
Yay! Yay!
which is one of the problems around Gaia-X, to get an understanding. And of course, we have to respect that there are multiple views on Gaia-X. I just want to start again with the core narrative of Gaia-X. And this is, so to say, we need a data infrastructure. And I'm really stressing the term data infrastructure. It's not just infrastructure, it's not just data. It's a combined view of data and infrastructure to support the promise of data sovereignty, also to address, to some extent, the direction of data availability in Europe. And everything should be done to foster the term of innovation for the European economy. So this is just setting the scene in the core narrative of Gaia-X, which has been then taken over by the politicians with the umbrella narrative of digital sovereignty, which opens a lot of additional aspects around Gaia-X. But if we stay on the more technical and practical approach of Gaia-X, of course, by this first statement, a lot of people understood, oh, this is now a new Europe cloud, or European cloud, or a European hyperscaler. And I really would like to avoid the term cloud. On one hand, it's too fuzzy. On the one hand, it narrows the view on Gaia-X into the wrong direction. Because what we really need, and this was also one of the key drivers, the industry said, well, we are capable, we have digitized most of our processes, we have sensors, we have digital twins, we can do a lot with the data. But what shall we do with the data if we cannot share the data with others? Because we all understood, only if we share data, we can create additional value out of this data, for example, in terms of supply chain management, in terms of productivity enhancements or quality control and so on and so forth. And this brings us now to the topic, we have to go into the edge, because if you collect so much data, you cannot put all the data into a cloud-centric processing. It is too expensive. It takes too much time to transfer all the data. And this in conjunction, of course, with the concern by most of the parties, if we look where can we do such a processing, if we don't want to do it on premise, then we have to switch to one of the few hyperscalers. And these hyperscalers are excellent with the services. They are excellent in terms of pricing. They are excellent in terms of outreach, but they have a reasonable level of vendor lock-in. And either you make a choice for one of them, and then you're in, and it's hard to get out of it. So some people name it Hotel California. And in this sense, we clearly say we need a level of diversity. We need to consider the edge as one of the key requirements. So we need a decentralized approach, which perfectly fits into our European reality. We have a federation of countries. We have multiple providers who are specialized for certain target groups. And why don't we consider to bring these resources together, to harmonize it, not to build one huge organic hyperscaler, but at least to stress the term of interoperability, of portability, and this decentralized approach. And if we talk about innovation, then who is going to drive the innovation? In most of the cases, these are the SMEs and the startups who are really offering new innovation and new services. But unfortunately, they lack in terms of acceptance to their relevant customers, because the customer will always like to see a full stack approach in terms of compliance, in terms of security, and so on. And so this is the reason why we think it's worth to build up a trustworthy ecosystem where we have the same policies and rules, where we stick on the same standards, where we really support this portability and interoperability approach, and where we establish appropriate technologies and services to support data sovereignty, and also which implies also sovereign IDs and and transparency on the services which might be used according to these rules. And this leads us then finally to the so-called federation services, which should interconnect the infrastructure view with the data-centric view and provide services to support this establishment of such trustworthy ecosystems. And this will hopefully lead also to the impact that we have better options for participation of the European economy in terms of the value chain of digital services. And this is also one of the target objectives or targets to have a more diverse and more agile ecosystem of providers and services than what we are seeing right now.
Okay, it's a little bit different from my view, but great. The new status report of Gaia-X is announced, will be published within the next month, when I remember well, right?
Maybe.
Can you give some insights of the one or two of the different working groups?
Okay. Are you talking about working groups or about deliverables? Because this is a difference. So
I'm not
okay.
inside.
Let me start how we work currently.
Mm-hmm.
And this will lead then to some kind of deliverables. We are working in the sense that we have a policy and rules committee who are taking care about policies and rules. Surprise, surprise. Then we have a technical committee, which is taking care of various technical views, like, therefore we have a kind of user group who really ask for specific requirements, technical requirements also. We have the provider group who are clearly saying, so we are capable to do this or this. And then we have X association, the option to liaise with other initiatives like European Open Science Cloud or various Horizon Europe activities or the EU or whatever. Then we have the Federation Services and Open Source Software Group. This is the group I'm heading. And then we have the architecture group to provide an architectural concept for Gaia-X. And we have the portfolio group who should take care what is the minimal viable Gaia or what can we extend as products in the Gaia-X service world. So these are 6 areas. And if we talk about the deliverables, one of the deliverables are these policies and rules to be updated. And there has been made a decision to expose such rules more from the user-centric side, so the high-level objectives from the user side. So if you simply ask a user, what are you asking in terms of a digital service? They say, it must be secure, it must be compliant, and it shouldn't cost anything. So this is quite a difficult challenge. So we need to find, the truth will be in between. But therefore we need some criteria to be addressed. And there's a side remark around Gaia-X according to European values and standards. So whatever we do, we should show how to achieve compliance according to the GDPR, how to achieve appropriate security level. This is currently the working group led by ENISA for the EU cybersecurity scheme. Then also in terms of sovereign identities, following the principles of eIDAS, also support free flow of data, switching provider, a lot of EU activities, which are to some extent formally described, but not yet taken into action. The same applies, for example, for GDPR, although GDPR is already in place since now more than 5 years, because it started already officially in 2016. As part of this declaration, they said, well, we have Article 40 to support certification of cloud services, and we have Article 42 to support, no, 40 is around code of conduct, and 42 is about certification. But none of these schemes are yet awarded by the European Data Privacy Group. So this is a problem we are facing, but we cannot solve it. So what can we do? We just reference to the principles, and we are really hoping that in the near future, we are seeing those those approaches, that they are getting more mature. But this is something how we deal with it. Take the high-level objectives, match them into the instruments, but try to avoid a duplication of a variety of approaches. Keep it just simple and transparent. For the technical committee, one of the deliverables is the architecture overview, so an update of what we already released back in June last year, and then a kind of architecture of standards approach, because this was also a remark of Gaia-X. Don't try to invent something new, try to take what's in there, what's already out there, and orchestrate it, which means let's take the existing standards, let's bring them into a context, let's try to solve with the commitment on these standards some of the interoperability issues, and then this will be anyway an ongoing exercise to update it, to streamline it, and probably to engage various domains, for example, finance or healthcare, which are highly regulated because they have additional specific requirements. And last but not least, we are currently in the specification phase for the so-called federation services. This activity is led by ECHO as a project management office. And what we are doing is really, or the challenge is, to transfer all these PowerPoint slides and PDFs into real functional code, which obviously stresses some of the participants because they are very good to sketch some pictures, but they are sometimes not so good to turn this into functional specifications. But this is what we're doing right now. So a set of microservices which are going to represent the first release of federation services in the area of identity management, in the area of a catalog service for services and provider, also into some support of sovereign data exchange, and also considering all the compliance requirements. And on top of it, we build a kind of portal to integrate and to orchestrate these services. So, and this is all these artifacts are going to be open source. So anyone could take it, because this is another promise of Gaia-X to support federations. So federation means you can take the set of federation services, build your own federation. A domain, for example, the Automotive Alliance can say, so this is the group of parties who are part of this alliance. Only those are entitled to log in or register for our services. And we are also in the driver's seat to specify what kind of services can be chosen in this alliance, for example. And this will then but if we are working with the same principles, the same standards as set by the now officially registered Gaia-X ARSBL in Brussels, then it should be much easier to interact with other domains in the same way. So what we're really aiming for is to break the silos, to keep the promise of interoperability. And in parallel, probably you heard about it, there's a strong understanding in terms of the data strategy that we have to work towards data spaces, which means it's a kind of fuzzy definition of a kind of data exchange network, whatever this means. But this is something we have to support with GaiaX as well.
Thank you. Maybe some last words from your division. You mentioned you are head of open software and
federation service, open source software. Well, as we said, this project for federation services is gratefully funded or supported by the German Ministry of Economics and Energy. So they spent 13.5 million euro for this first set of services. And I have a clear understanding public money should result into public code, because this is tax money. And in this sense, we have to be very clear that these services are clean of any foreign IP and that it can be used by anyone. This is just a starting point. This is kind of a reference implementation. I think with the Federation services, at least we can showcase one of the key concepts of Gaia-X, and also find some advancement, especially when we talk about sovereign IDs, because identity management is also a key for the digital society. And sovereign identities would be even better. When we look at the ID card in Germany, the so-called NPA, well, obviously it was not a burner as a digital identity. And I think we have to do something into this direction. And because it's not acceptable that either we are dealing with 100 different e-business accounts with the difficulty of finding individual passwords to avoid a risk for leakages. And on the other side, you're taking one of the well-known identity providers who are not very strict in terms of data privacy requirements, let me say it this way. And so I think this is really where we need to find solutions. And again, if you're asking me, are there risks that Gaia-X might fail? I don't care, because whatever we are doing, it will advance us. And I'm also hearing messages like, well, Gaia-X is too late. So what? So what is the statement behind it? Doesn't matter. If you say it's too late, well, then let's expedite it and provide some arguments. What can we do that it will get faster? But just bringing some comments from the sideline, from the side, doesn't bring us forward. And we also need to learn, especially in Europe, we need to have this European alliance. So none of the countries in Europe is capable to proceed in the competition of digital services on a worldwide base. So we need to bring our capacity, we need to strengthen our working relationships. We need to work on, we need to be more sovereign to get more resilient in terms of digital infrastructures. And there are good signs already that even the member states they understood that we have to do something in the area of digital infrastructures and cloud services. And there's obviously a strong bottom-up approach beside the work which is done on the Commission side. And we are hoping that there will be very soon some initiatives which really will strengthen our digital infrastructures. And this, in combination with Gaia-X, will bring us a major step forward. So this is what I'm looking for, and it's a challenging exercise at all.
I really love this project. There are so many important thoughts in, and so many great approaches, which are so different from all other approaches worldwide. And I think we have a great advantage here in Europe to make something different and sustainable.
And it really means it doesn't make sense to copy something which was successful in other country. We don't need a Silicon Valley in Europe, but it will never work because we have this federation and we have this diversity. So let's deal with this. Let's try to build up structures and concepts which applies to the European DNA. So this is something different. And don't try to copy something. So this is the reason why I say building up a European hyperscaler is nonsense. It doesn't make sense because this is not how Europe works at all. And try this approach. I think so far Gaia-X is a once in a lifetime project or initiative. It's not it's an initiative. And it's quite agile, and we have to refine and rescale from every week, every month. And of course, the onboarding of new participants is a problem by itself because they have a different understanding. So we need to provide more resources to bring them up to date, to align the concept, to have a common view, but to keep the room for navigation in this Gaia-X cosmos and to allow new ideas and new thoughts. And so far it was very impressive that at least already in 2020, more than 500 participants worked pro bono just on this concept. So, and I think this tender or this funding for the Federation services is the first funding at all. So far, the government has just spent money for the internal office resource support to drive Gaia-X forward, which is very unusual. But what we really do not need is another 3 years research project where we potentially see some outcome at the end of this 3 years. So this is not what will bring us forward in terms of Gaia-X.
Great, thank you.
Topic, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
And your insights.